Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to do a little bit of commentary on some videos regarding Flower Turbines, which is the company that makes small um, turbines that collect renewable energy from the wind. Uh, Bear with me. I typically watch videos on 1.5 to 2 times speed, but for the video I want to do it on normal speed so that we can all watch together. So here we go.
The idea is to combine efficiency with art, so to say. Because if you want the energy transition to succeed, it's very important that people like the product, that they are willing to live next to it.
So that is a very true statement. To me, the number one company right now that's succeeded with, um, I guess, a green initiative, a push towards a more renewable, sustainable future has been Tesla. Obviously, hugely successful company, and there were obviously previously electric cars. In fact, the Prius was the first one, and many celebrities drove Priuses as a status symbol to say, "Hey, look, I care about the environment." However, for most people, they said, "I'm not willing to wear the status symbol of, hey, I like the environment and want to be sustainable because it looks like a dorky car." So Tesla was the first to make it cool and sexy. So there is something to be said for, hey, people do want to do the right thing, but let's make it as easy as possible by making it look nice too. So I do think that the aesthetic appeal is important.
When you look to the big wind turbines, some of them 100 or 200 meters high, they are very highly efficient. But the problem is nobody wants to live next to it. A lot of people are starting to object. And the flower turbine, the vertical turbine, they have the advantage that they make less noise and they can integrate more easily in the surrounding. The problem with solar is that it doesn't produce any energy during the night and hardly during the winter. The future of energy transition is that there is no one source of energy. So we have to use multiple sources.
I would agree with that too. You really do need multiple sources of energy. However, especially with solar, which I know a lot of people are big onto, and I've done a lot of research into solar, the problem is obviously that with solar, you actually also typically need battery storage. So, as you mentioned, you get solar typically just during the day, and only some parts of the world are much more sunny and some parts are cloudy. So you're gonna have some days where you have a ton of energy during the middle of the day, and then almost nothing at night or on days that's cloudy. So you need to battery storage to balance those out. That's typically what they do. However, there's also ways of this is why I do think you need to combine different ones. So you can have maybe less storage, but you can have more constant generation by combining battery storage, or sorry, solar with wind. That way you kind of get at least a higher baseline of energy. I don't know who wants that though. Let's go back there for a second. I know they say they look more aesthetic, and I do think I've seen some videos of ones that are on top of light posts and stuff, and I do think that looks good, but this looks fucking stupid. I don't know who would ever want this personally. That doesn't look so, again, whether you like the aesthetic or not, this is much more palatable, I think, than having 20 of them on the roof of your house, which I don't think will happen. To me, I think this makes the most sense for cities and maybe even commercial properties, um, where they're much more about the efficiencies. And yes, they want the aesthetic to look nice, but not so big. And as you can see right here, I'll zoom in a little, they both have solar and wind. So again, on this company, you really have to believe that, we're going to be wanting to capture wind everywhere. And I don't think so. I actually saw one that I thought was super interesting, which was the same thing. But rather than having them on the tops of light posts, they put them on the side of highways. That to me makes sense. When you're driving quickly, your car actually is pushing air, right? There's wind resistance, which pushes air around the car, which will typically push it off to the side. And so what this one had was along the barrier in the middle of the highway, they had all these wind turbines along the barrier. To me, that makes perfect sense. It makes the highway maybe look a little nicer, collect some energy. That to me makes a lot of sense. To me, putting this on top of your house, I highly doubt most people will do that. And again, this is why I've still have not invested in flower turbines, is because you can say, hey, this is great for the world, it's great technology. What is the business model? As I mentioned with Twitter, which I'll link to that video here, you can have a great product, but if you don't have a good business model, it can be a bad investment. I think it's an amazing product. I like it. As they said, it's first of all, it's tapping into a major theme, which is renewability and sustainability, clean energy. These are massive themes that are going to grow over the next decade plus. So I love that. I do think there's a use case. I like that there's counter positioning. So, as opposed to typical wind turbines, these are smaller, they're more city-based. People don't want wind turbines. I have some family in California. When you drive from San Francisco to California, you see these huge wind turbines all along the highway. But you don't really see them close to cities because, as they said, people don't want them in their backyard, the NIMBYism, which is not in my backyard. And I agree, I wouldn't want one too close either because it is a bit of an eyesore. So these do have counter positioning in that, as opposed to being, hey, they're out in the middle of nowhere, this can be much closer, much more urban, which to me makes a lot more sense. But again, I'm not sold on the business model. I'm trying to think, who are they selling to? I think it'd be really tough to sell to individuals. That seems like a really tough sell to be trying to do. So to me, it makes the most sense for municipalities and cities first. And I think I want to wait and see how that sales process goes, because so far I've not seen, I haven't seen any here. Though we'll watch one more video that notes that they have been installed in Miami, and I am actually going to Miami shortly. So let's watch one more video about flower turbines.
The use of wind energy in the United States is steadily increasing. In March 2017, wind and solar accounted for 10% of the overall power generation. Industry experts think that by 2050, the country could be getting as much as 1/3 of power from the blowing wind. But there are still many challenges.
I'd like to see a source there. Not saying that it won't happen, but I'm not so sure. On the general topic of renewables, like I include, I guess maybe there's clean energy, green energy, renewable energy. You can define them differently, but we're shutting down a lot of nuclear plants. Actually, I actually just received in the mail a thing to say shut down the local nuclear plant. But nuclear actually does not produce any emissions in the typical sense. No CO2s. Yes, there are harmful emissions that at the end of the day you have nuclear waste that you have to get rid of, and I do think we need to solve that problem. But we've actually seen a lot of countries shutting down their nuclear plants, and the only way right now when you shut down a power plant, you need to make up for that somehow. And they're not building solar and wind quick enough to make up for the loss of nuclear. So you're actually seeing an increase in these countries in relying on natural gas, coal, dirtier sources of energy. So I would be skeptical of 1/3 of energy from the wind, but maybe not. I'd like to see some sources. That's my thing always.
For big wind.
The fundamental problem with wind energy is basic physics. They can't increase their power production unless they increase the number of turbines and the size of their turbines. They need massive structures to capture enough energy to make a difference. The land use requirements for wind energy are roughly 700 times as large as the land use requirements for hydraulic fracturing. And then you add in the problems of
hydraulic fracturing, obviously fracking. Yeah, there's no doubt that there are some forms of electricity that are more uh, land intensive. And, that is something that should be factored in with sustainability. How much land use is this taking up? And so there is no doubt that while wind is a big positive in that it produces no emissions, that's capturing something that's already created. It does take up a lot of land use and has some negative externalities.
Bird kills, including not just little passerine birds, sparrows, and meadowlarks and the rest. It's raptors, it's birds of prey. Some of our most iconic wildlife, bald eagles, golden eagles, are being killed by these wind turbines.
Flower turbines.
Again, no doubt that I don't want to see any eagles or birds die, but the fact that, because it's an American bald eagle, it's more valuable than a sparrow, uh, seems just a little play into the patriotic card. Again, yes, birds do die by flying into wind turbines, which is bad, but who cares what kind of, I won't say who cares what kind of birds, but like, any bird dying is not good. Doesn't matter that it's a bald eagle that's dying. I love when they pull on the American heartstrings by saying, well, it was a bald eagle, so therefore it's what, 100 times worse. How do you quantify that? And he also, I say turbines, he was like turbines, which I thought was interesting considering he's supposed to be the expert, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been saying this word wrong my whole life.
Turbines has developed a bold idea on how to solve these issues in an urban setting. These small wind turbines are cost-effective, silent, vibration-free, and long-lasting. They are hazard-free for birds, have proximity superiority, small land footprint, and can even increase energy output by as much as 20% when placed close together.
The bold idea is that we can take the small wind turbine market and turn it into a mass production market like Henry Ford did for the automobile.
Unlike wind farms, where a lot of space is needed, wind tulips can spin close to each other. They can also be installed on roofs of homes and buildings.
We can turn so many buildings across the world into producers of clean energy and make a very serious dent in the amount of dirty energy that's produced in this world.
The wind energy market is very much like the solar market in a number of ways.
Many areas of Florida have low wind and they're sunny. They should use solar. I would say a good 30%, maybe more of the United States is appropriate for wind turbines. And one thing that's very interesting, if you look at it, not that they're competitive with each other, but they actually are synergistic with each other.
Flower Turbines is taking part in an urban development project in Tampa, Florida. Flower Turbines is a member of the inaugural Dream It Urban Tech Program. Dream It is a top 10 ranked global accelerator and venture capital firm.
All of the companies that we selected for the program are at least potentially relevant for Tampa. A few of them, like Flower Turbines, would like their first at-scale installation to be part of this $3 billion renovation project in Tampa.
Fossil fuels still dominate the energy mix, and big wind is facing many issues with reaching scale. Companies like Flower Turbines are bringing small wind turbine products to market. They may be the answer to harnessing the power of the wind.
So again, I agree with a bunch of things from these videos. One, there is big potential here. This is a massively growing market, the market for renewable energy. However, this is from December 2018, so we're talking on 3 years ago now. And I've seen, I have not seen, based on their filings, if I recall, they had basically almost nothing in revenue last year, and then this past year they had very limited sales. So it's not like this idea is picking up like crazy. And the way I see it is sometimes you want to see there's a market first before the product. This was, hey, we have a great product, now let's see if there's a market. And you want to do the opposite. Typically in tech, which is my background, you can actually kind of sell an idea before you have it. It's called vaporware, where you say, hey, let's go out, let's see if people want this kind of product. And if there is, then you can go back and build it. So you get the commitments first. You talk to the customers first. I think this was the person who started, Dr. Farb, I think is his name. I think he kind of said, "This is a great idea. I'm going to create it, and then we're going to try and see if there's a business here." And he mentioned multiple times, "Oh, I could see this on many buildings." Again, I do not see this being commercially viable for the B2C market, for the selling directly to consumers. To me, um, going back to Tesla, they're also doing solar roof. And if we look at what the solar roof looks like, solar roof, and that product has challenges. That one has been delayed significantly. But again, it's, hey, instead of ugly solar panels, which actually to me aren't that big a deal, but let's have, you know, let's have it look exactly like a roof. And you have to replace your roof every, I'm gonna get this wrong, but let's say 20 years or so anyway. So you need to replace it anyway. And if it's cost competitive, where you would rather, like, it's the same cost to add a solar roof from Tesla as just replace your roof normally, they want the decision to be so obvious that there's no denying it. So again, they say, hey, there's a market. People already put solar panels on their roofs. What's the thing they hate about it? That it looks ugly. Let's make a good looking solar panel that's cost competitive with normal roofs, and then it's an easy decision. To me, makes total sense. To me, there's a new product. Hey, do people want to add turbines on the roof? I don't think so. I think that is going to be a really tough sell. Again, do I think there's a market for this? Yes. The question is how big and how are they going to reach those people? And what is the market? Is the market commercial, where there's industrial warehouses? Is it, like I said earlier, the side of the road and cities do it to capture some electricity? Is it right off the pier and they have it all along the boardwalk when you're walking along? If you're in a city or town that borders a river, like maybe it's right along the water where typically there's more wind, maybe. But again, I'm not seeing this as like, I'm not this is the best way to invest, but again, when you're investing in a company this early, you kind of have to envision how big could it get, right? You can't value it off of revenues. A company like Google, you could say, what's a reasonable growth rate for them? What are their earnings now? How much could they earn in the future? Can they get can they scale up more? Economies of scale. There's things you can kind of model out here. There's no modeling out. So you have to say, what's the market? And when I close my eyes and think, do I see these everywhere? The answer is no. I really don't. I think when most people picture the future, we are not picturing these little turbines everywhere. Again, here I don't really mind it, but I'm not seeing hundreds of thousands per city. Again, maybe a little more. I actually think it kind of makes sense in like somewhere like the Netherlands where they have tulips already and it's kind of could match the aesthetic for sure. But I think most people do not want this kind of aesthetic in their home and it doesn't match with most. And again, that isn't the only consideration, but I really think that most people do want renewable energies, but there's alternatives. There's solar, which I think is going to be big. There's geothermal, there's wave power. I've seen some interesting ones where they're harnessing the power of waves. So I think there's other renewable green energies that I think might be more viable. So again, at this time, I'm going to be staying away from flower turbines. Again, great product. I'm not seeing the business case, but I've done my due diligence. And if you believe in this, if you close your eyes and you say, hey, I think this could be everywhere, Josh, you're missing the future, let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, you have my blessing to invest. Again, this is opinions, not advice, but to me, that's really the biggest question is, do you think this will be a really big product in the next 10 years? And if you do, I think investing could be a good idea. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of the product. Are you an investor in flower turbines? Do you believe in it? Thanks so much for watching and talk to you next time.